Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we have decided to make this here episode a drinking game.
Yes, we have. Wait, you can't have a bigger glass than me. Come on.
I know. Well, this is a gift from the Matt and Mark movie show as part of our Secret Santa.
That's bigger than your face.
Yeah, this is a 1 liter boot, and I've had these boots before at bars, and it's bigger than a liter for sure. The line for the liter is meant to have like like 6 inches of foam on top. So I poured a pint into this, and this thing it barely filled up the foot, let alone the leg of this boot.
Oh my God, dude.
So I would say pour yourself a glass, but you fucking already have.
I know. I would have filled it up. All my beers are different. All my beers are different kinds right now. This is a clean out episode for me.
You're drinking beer rocket fuel, is what you're saying.
I'm going to be drinking 1 beer at a time out of this boot.
Okay. Cool. Just put them all in.
Since our intro just went to absolute shit. Jeff, do you remember that time you and I were seeing how much beer we could drink at once in college? And we had like a boot at your house, and I chugged the whole thing, and then I immediately threw up
right afterwards. Yeah,
you just remember like a minute. I was like, "Yeah, I did it!"
Well, because you had a friend that chugged 5 beers in a row.
Still counts.
Yes, I do. I will not out him, but 5 beers. He chugged an entire pitcher at once, and they got really famous for it. Or notorious, rather, in a bad way. Oh my God! So
we had
funny.
a prime minister like that once.
Yeah, except they're all but your prime minister wasn't drinking beer. Your prime minister was using cocaine.
Jeff, you've either got to sit six.
I thought it was crack.
You either got to sit 6 feet away or turn the gain on your microphone down.
Oh yeah, the gain is up really high on my microphone. I apologize.
Wait, was it the Canadian prime minister that did crack before Trudeau? Who was somebody did crack?
Yeah, I think it was one of the ministers.
Somebody in the Commonwealth. In a high level of leadership did crack.
I mean, if you ask me, a lot of the people in the Commonwealth are doing crack, but... Yeah.
Guys, how many other podcasts West Side Story episode has started out the way that ours has?
Not many. I gotta brag. My amazing girlfriend made me a movie-themed drink. This is a Rican coconut nog. Some good spiced rum in here. It's very tasty. It's basically like Puerto Rican eggnog, supposedly. But it's very, very, very good, you guys. I recommend... I recommend trying it.
I like that Puerto Rico has eggnog. I've learned something today. That's awesome.
Well, it's their version of it, right? It's not.
It counts.
Anyway,
it counts.
God damn it.
We've blown the intro.
Dave, finish the intro.
Yeah.
What's your line?
Already finished the intro. You finished it.
Okay, no. Anyone? Okay, so it's a drinking game. Anyone says anything negative or stupid about a movie, each other, anything, you'll hear this sound.
Ooh.
And that means we're drinking. Like Jeff
We
is
are
right
drinking.
now. There
If
he
you
goes.
can't
Like,
tell,
oh my God, I
think we're all drinking.
you'll hear Jeff every time he takes a drink because it'll hit the bubble.
Did you hear it every time?
Yeah, you got to turn. Dude, have you not seen Beer Vest? Turn the boot.
No, I know. Oh, so that the toes face down, right?
Yeah. No, sideways. Sideways. You got to turn it as the
I
bubble.
just
or
did it
facing
sideways.
up.
Fucking Matt and Mark, guys. I gotta send you your boots.
Shout out, Matt and Mark.
Send him some
movie
fucking
show.
classes as well.
Okay. Anyway, here we are, baby. People were talking about West Side. I want to apologize. My gain was up so hot. I'm coming in so hot on this episid for West Side Story.
You're fine now. You're good now.
Yeah,
It was
you can
intensity.
actually, if you watch the video on YouTube, you'd actually see my eyes pop out of my head briefly.
Oh yeah. John, who are our sponsors?
We have one or two. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. His name is Carlos Barroso.
That guy.
And he has a new and improved handle on Instagram that he messaged Jeff and I about this week. It is very simply cbarrozo.beer. That's right, people. Not too different than it was. CBAROOZO dot BER, BEER.
Shit.
Get in there. cbarrozo.beer. You know what the fuck it is. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You just bombed our copy.
No, we're good. And we have real original music that is on this podcast. It's on every single week, every single episode, some different samples through the ages, all provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. If you're digging it, head on over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist and download all of it for free. Give that man some love and come right back and like us, love us, share us.
As well, straight on
our link tree.
On our link tree.
And in our notes.
Takes you straight
all
there.
The things.
Takes you straight to him.
I'm
Not any
you,
of the
folks,
other 4 people that are trying to rip him off.
Yeah, come on, you people. All right. Anyway, I could not be more excited. Jeff, oh man, there's a giant bug in my drink. Set this movie up while I get this fucking fly out of my drink.
It's got coconut in it.
Oh my God. Look at
All
this
right.
giant fly, you guys.
So-
Part of the ingredients.
So,
That's how we roll in Australia.
Jesus Christ. Of course, this is the week that my mom, who runs the senior center in town, is recruiting friends to watch, not only listen, but watch our episode. All we've done is talked about
I can't.
parliamentary debauchery, and we've debauched ourselves. West Side Story, believe it or not, several of us have BFAs in musical theater. John was actually Chino in West Side Story one time. I remember pretty well because I was the spotlight operator.
And Tony. I've been Tony and Chino, and I've music directed this show.
So you've heard of the show. Okay, cool. So this is West Side Story. I don't know if you guys at home have heard of this. Apparently you didn't go see it in the movie theater, but I'm glad that you're here for our podcast anyway. Usually we do spoiler stuff, and I usually say right now, if you haven't seen the movie, listen to us for a little bit. We're going to start with our initial takeaways so you can decide if you should see the movie or if you want to see the movie. It's West Side Story. There are a couple updates to the story that were made by screen adapter Tony Kushner, who is a Pulitzer Prize winner for Angels in America. He also wrote Steven Spielberg's last best movie, which was Munich in 2004. He also wrote Lincoln and a couple other movies. So Tony Kushner did the adaptation for this. And besides a couple of things, just the movie's fucking awesome. Go see it, and that's our spoil. Now we're
And the show's over. Thanks.
some people die. Some people die. There's a gun. You get the gist. Okay, cool. So this is Steven Spielberg. It's been a passion project of his forever. He apparently dedicated it to Dad, which I thought he dedicated Saving Private Ryan to Dad, but okay, he made a lot of movies, so he's recircling his dad recommendations here. This is starring Ansel Elgort as Tony, Rachel Ziegler, who's a newcomer, as Maria, who is now 20 years old. This movie was supposed to come out in 2020 for Christmas when she would have been 19. So I'm guessing she was 18 when she filmed this. Ariana DeBose, who is blowing up. She was in Schmigadoon and the Prom recently. David Alvarez, who almost quit acting as Bernardo. And then legendary Rita Moreno as Valentina, who is the stand-in for Doc. We'll get there pretty soon. Rita Moreno won an Oscar for playing Anita in the original film. You have somewhat newcomer Mike Feist, who's a Broadway performer as Riff. And then, of course, our hero, Brian Darcy James, hero for the stage folk of us, as Officer Krupke. And Corey Stoll is probably the biggest name out of everybody as Lieutenant Schrank. I think that's basically the setup. I don't want to set too much of the updates yet, which we'll get to. But let's do our usual thing. I'm not going to read the synopsis. 1957, Upper West Side.
I also think we should. This is
If you don't know
fuck
what
you if you
happens
haven't
by
seen
now, you've
this.
done yourself a disservice.
We're going to talk about spoilers. We can hold off on the updates.
It's not
you
even-
might
it's
not
even
think-
it's not
yeah.
even spoilers. Like,
You might not think you've seen it, but given all the parodies and references in other popular culture, you've seen this whole film.
yeah, exactly.
And this is based on
Subconsciously.
a little known tale called Romeo and Juliet. So fuck you if you haven't seen this movie yet or don't know what the story is or
Right.
anything. You'll get the drift as we're discussing. Dave,
Well, let me do one more setup.
Sorry.
Recently, we said when we did not Singing in the Rain, when we did what's the other movie musical we did? We've done a lot of movies.
We did In the Heights, and we did that other thing that shall be named.
That week. No. The same week as In the Heights. We did. What's his? Come on, Gene Kelly and Donald.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
That was Singing in the Rain.
Yeah. Drink your boot in shame, you bitch.
Not Singing in the Rain. We did Singing in the Rain. Fuck, guys. I'm so sorry. I should say, though, we said, by we, I mean Amy, Joe, and I, because she was our guest that week, said that the West Side Story movie is the best out of the film adaptations of Broadway musicals, because The Sound of Music is technically better film than West Side Story, but the musical sucked and they made it better, so they almost like redid it. But as far as like Wizard of Oz, for instance, Mary Poppins, those were direct to film. So as far as Broadway shows that we needed to capture on film, we agreed that in the history of Broadway, we thought West Side Story, the original Robert Wise film from 1961, we thought was the best, despite its obvious flaws, a very, very white Maria, for instance.
Yes.
But this, so that's the source material. We really praise that movie. I think this one's better. What do you guys think? Dave, what do you think?
Oh, comes out swinging with a controversial opinion there. I mean, do you remember when it was after Frozen came out, and then they released another animated series, and then at the beginning of that there was a short film with one of the Frozen characters. I think it was the snowman. Olaf was in it.
Did not do well.
And they made the kids sit through this 15-minute thing. And the review, basically the best review I heard of that was this 5-year-old kid who turned to his dad and was like, "Daddy, nobody asked for this."
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what the whole world has said about this film. It's like, how dare he? Nobody asked for this. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? Because he's a fucking amazing director and he nailed it. Like from the get-go, like, oh my god, the sound mix. Did you see this in Dolby Cinema?
Yep.
Yeah. Like
but
whistles were just coming from everywhere. It was like, it's the first time I've ever heard anyone use the center above Dolby track.
Nice.
Like that you could hear. And it was it was really like right down to this, like the sound mix was phenomenal. This is the the anti-Les Mis. Like they took the music and just swelled it. And fair. But like it was a real, like I'd put this up there with like Chicago for musical adaptations, because that was my modern favorite till now.
Yeah, to that, quickly, I want to reiterate what I said last year when we were doing a lot of the films that were coming out. We think, for the right reasons, that these huge theater experiences, Dolby Cinema, IMAX, 3D, that's meant for the superhero movies, right? Because it's like theme park, you know, you want that kind of stuff. But the reason that these kinds of stories, whether it's West Side or even something really intimate, like Aroma, for instance, what the sound mix can do when it's not just high volume stuff, like Dave said, when that whistle happened, it was happening all over the theater for me. There was a whistle in the back left, there was a whistle back right. So then all of a sudden, by having a smaller tail use this kind of technology, then I'm immersed, as opposed to just like a VR experience. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why I think these kinds of movies should really be seen in the cinema, because I know my soundbar can't throw 10 whistles from 10 different locations at me.
Yeah.
Anyway, John, what do you think?
I could not agree more. You ready for the biggest statement I could possibly think of? Part of me feels like Steven Spielberg directed 40 years, and this movie was made in 61, and this musical was made in 60, just so Steven Spielberg could make it into a masterpiece in 2021. I mean, I can't believe how well his style fit this story in this movie. I cannot believe he's never done this before.
Yeah.
It was shocking. Like, it was actually shocking. And Dave, you're totally right. You're right. 57. Thank you for the original musical. Everyone was like, why is he doing that? And I think if you go see it, you'll understand why. And we're going to get into the updates and stuff that is still very much him. I know that was, he directed all this. It's a passion project. There's no way he just said, yeah, Tony, do whatever you want. They worked really hard on trying to figure out ways to justify everything, because there are holes in these, musicals always have holes in scripts. And when you're sitting 100 feet, 100 yards, 100 meters away from something, and there's so much music and song coming at you, there's something about sitting in a theater where your mind fills in a lot of gaps more in live theater than you're willing to do in the realism of a cinema.
Also,
there's just something different.
Can you name me a musical that has a kick-ass second act? It's always just a little step down and then a number at the end for me.
Yeah, I mean,
there are examples, but it's a good point.
Probably, when is does Wicked
Hamilton's second act is great.
Has a pretty second, yeah.
Wicked's second act is moving, but the first act is better for sure.
You're right, and Dave, you're right. I just can't get over it. And we're going to talk about it, but I mean, you guys, I can't. I'm thinking all technically, just being in school. By the way, this is my final day. I just finished my first fucking semester at USC. I'm totally done today.
I'm so jealous.
No, yeah, it feels good. I can't stop thinking technically about stuff. And Steven Spielberg is just such an actual genius. You can disagree with whether or not you like some of the elements of his storytelling through his entire canon, but I don't think anyone would disagree with the fact that he knows how to move a camera and block scenes. Like, his blocking and camera movement is always top notch. And it was like he was just practicing to get up to this movie. Like, the movement and the blocking and the camera choreo combined with Justin Peck's amazing choreography was aces. I mean, I just, every scene I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe they thought to cover it that way. Because, Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins, I think one reason we felt so comfortable in that episode with Amy Jo, and I still agree with it, I'm not disagreeing with it, is that Jerome Robbins directed the original stage production. His choreography is genius. Nobody can argue with that. So I think Robert Wise and him obviously came to an agreement that they wanted to try to stay wide unless characters were completely still, which only happens a little bit between Tony and Maria. They do go in for some close-ups there, but a lot of that movie is played in medium and wider shots. They want to be able to see all the dancing. And Steven, in every way possible, Steven Spielberg, I think, leaned into trying to do it his way, but also do it differently so that it would feel like a different movie. They could not feel more different. So you can still love the old one. That's what I liked about it so much. For all the people who really have a soft spot for that film, it is not going anywhere. You're going to be able to go home and watch that, and you're still going to be able to smile because it's something else. Steven Spielberg made one of the best Steven Spielberg movies I've ever seen. I cannot remember the last time he made a movie this good, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's already a talented person. I'm not saying shit about his other films.
Over this. It's a phenomenal accomplishment. Like, because I did not think he could pull this off. Like, I went in there going, all right, this is probably going to be a bit of a chore. Like, I hope it doesn't go horribly wrong. I will say one thing, Jeff, were you in my theater by any chance? Because
I saw it at the Cinema Number 1.
Okay,
Dolby Digital at Lincoln Square.
Okay, no, because just a flashback to our last episode, when the Nicole Kidman clip came on, some people two rows back started hooting and cheering loudly for about 90 seconds, while it was like just sarcastically and ironically. I'm like, did they listen to our show? Like,
that's hilarious. No, that's funny. This is.
Jeff, do you agree with us? Like, yeah,
this is one of the best movies. This is one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time.
Me too. I said the exact same sentence. I can't remember the last time I saw a good movie this good.
I don't want to get into platitudes. Golden Globe nominations came out today. It's got a bunch. The one that here's what I'll say. The original story. I know, John, you talked about flaws. I'm just gonna mention a couple of them really quickly, and then we can talk about them more if you want. Because what my speech is going to be about is how Tony Kushner, and yes, I know he had help from I know he had help from Steven Spielberg, but this is one of the best. This is one of the best adaptations of something that was ever on the stage, whether it's a play or a musical. This might be the single best adaptation ever. Because here's the thing, West Side Story, and this is what I've always said about West Side Story. I always said, I think it's the best musical ever. I've just never seen anything that proved it, so therefore I can't give it the crown.
That's good. That's good.
Because Romeo and Juliet has a huge flaw, which is that Romeo sucks. Romeo ruins everything for everybody. We love the fact that he's in love, but he ruins everybody's life by being a cocky, arrogant prick who can't control himself. It's just the truth. He's a fool. Juliet is pure love and joy. Romeo's a dickhead, and he kind of ruins. It's the honest to God truth. Yeah. If you look at his actions, everything he does is only guided by his ego and by his privilege. West Side Story takes that, and you have Tony as the biggest flaw in the original West Side Story. And they tried, because Something's Coming is actually a late update for the show. That wasn't in the original Out of Town tryout, and they added it because nobody cared about Tony, so they added the song for him. But the truth is, nobody believes that he was ever in a gang, right? You never believe that he was in a gang. If you just follow his actions, he meets a girl, stalks her, follows her home into her bedroom, kills her brother, has sex with her, and then tries to get her to run away with him. So by contrast, if he was a shark, I think most of the crowd in 1957 would say, deport that motherfucker. But because he was a jet, they root for Tony, and they're like, oh, poor guy. So that's like, maybe flaw isn't the right word, but it's definitely something that the original story, it has to dance around, because unfortunately on the page, that's not great.
Glossed over it.
Also, the whole part of West Side Story is definitely from the point of view of the Jets. And the only reason they're angry at the Sharks is that they're racist. I know they're saying, like, you're coming onto our turf, you're coming onto this, you're coming to that. But there's other immigrants that are moving into that neighborhood. So, and they're not even really fighting over turf, because it's that whole problem. It's really just racism, you know. And we try to, like, it's just anxiety. Like, cool, the whole song is really just about anxiety, and they're anxious because they're racist. Like, so that it's done really well in the original show, you know, as well as that can go. This takes that head fucking on. It takes it. It does not dance around.
How are we going to cover that? Yeah.
And
there it is.
It's not even, like, the easiest update is make Tony somebody who came out of parole and has sort of changed and doesn't want to go back. Brilliant, simple.
So simple. Yeah, let's just go in order.
Brilliant and simple.
Let's just go from the beginning because there's so many.
Well, I'm going to take a step back because the next one, make Maria 18. And I know they just said it one time, but please, God, make it 18 because otherwise it's too rapey. She's 18. Her parents are gone from the original story. So she lives with Bernardo and Anita. She has a job and she pays her rent and she's tough. So even though she's small and loving, but she can make it on her own. Brilliant, simple, genius. But all of this is really sitting on top of what they did originally, which is they actually reminded us where this musical is set, which is Lincoln fucking Center, New York City. That is one of the biggest opera houses in the world. That was like the epitome of wealth and class and style, but that and the east side of Manhattan. But what they literally tore down these tenement buildings with poor people, including poor white people, including poor people of color. They tore it down and they built up a mecca to wealth right there at Lincoln Center. And they set this movie there and reminded us that they're fighting over rubble. The whole thing is a joke. And rather than sit there and be like, oh, these poor Jets, they said they had Shrank tell them at the beginning, guys, your parents' friends made it out. Your parents fucked up. Please don't be your parents. Please don't be your parents. What the Puerto Ricans are doing right now is they are living the American fucking dream that you are not. And they say that in the second scene. You're fighting over rubble. Nobody gives a shit about you or your place. So get out. And they don't do it. They still fall into the same traps and it makes it hurt so much. Anyway, that's the end of my beginning of my speech. But I'm just saying that every single update, setting those parts of the story on those pedestals, we're off and running.
This is what we've been waiting to get to because Tony Kushner is arguably the greatest contemporary theatrical writer, dramatist writer, like he's up there and he just proves it over and over and over again. Every single hole or lack of justification, let's say lack of justification, because there are so many things that are just kind of glossed over or didn't seem necessary to Arthur Lawrence in the original book. That is not saying anything away from him. I think that they shine a little bit brighter in a negative way in a movie adaptation. So they're really noticeable in the 61 Wise Robbins version. Every single aspect, even every single scene had additional dialogue. Almost every single key scene had additional dialogue by Tony Kushner that justified, enriched, and heightened the stakes. When you track the stakes, the dramatic arcs that lead to a violent death, a violent climax, and in between there's a loss of virginity. There's a rape scene. It can be very difficult to track that in the stage version. So from the very beginning, by establishing the fact that they're coming from this situation in New York City was extremely effective. But it was the small moments, one little moment here and there at the end of the scene between Tony and Riff in the very beginning, which I've never felt like you got their relationship enough, which fed into what you were talking about, Jeff, how Tony just didn't seem like he had enough of a reason for you to care about him and to justify this ridiculous drama that he puts himself inside. The last line goes something like, Riff looks at him, he says, you remember he's got that dusty can of soup in his hand. He says something like, all of those guys, they're just like me and they're just like you. So don't forget like where you came from. Because even though you've come out of prison and your whole philosophy has changed, they don't see us that way. The Puerto Ricans, you were still, right? So you can't escape that shit. Then every aspect of tracking his conversations with Maria were greatly improved by just a few lines added here or there. The fact that they have Tony try to learn Spanish was really helpful. The fact that in the choreography, in the famous Tony and Maria meeting scene waltz, Maria teaches him that dance as opposed to them just being swept up. That shit you can get away with in a musical where they just come together and start doing the exact same choreography. It doesn't fly as easily in the movies. So like every opportunity, it's like they sat down and they said, we're not putting this to green light until every single moment is justified. And it built to some really incredible moments. This adaptation of Cool was the first time that I was like, brilliant. Why has nobody done that before? Everyone has always talked about, like, why isn't Tony singing it? He should probably be the one singing it. But it's not just he should be the one singing it. For them to take it into him actually having direct physical confrontation with Riff over trying to get the gun away. They justified the gun so well throughout, and it built to the
That is one of my favorite scenes, by the way.
Yeah, where does the gun come from in the original version? It just comes out of nowhere.
And then they're ganging up on him. Tony finally feels alone by the end of that. And then I'm just going to keep going if you don't mind. I want to come back to the cool scene from a filmmaking standpoint. When they get in, I've played Tony, a music director, like I said, when you get to the Rumble scene, and Bernardo starts hitting Tony. That's in the script. That's in the Arthur Lawrence book. In the movie version and on the stage version, he basically just takes it until Riff jumps in there, whips the knife out, and they're on. The fact that they let Tony break for a second and almost beat the shit out of Bernardo and have to catch himself and realize he hasn't escaped. Riff was right. He is still them. He's never going to be able to escape that. He's already doomed. It justified what happened after so much more. It made you care about Riff's death even more because he actually rescues Tony from doing that. That's that moment.
Yeah.
It never made sense before, but now it actually was justified.
They justified everything They justified everything in that scene in the Rumble. They justified everything in the Rumble where they made Bernardo an awesome boxer, and rather than make Tony beat him, he slips because they're on the salt. It's like literally every detail about this. Because really, come on, Bernardo's a better fighter than Tony. Bernardo's a better fighter than Tony in this movie. But
Tony's huge though. Good casting.
Tony's huge.
Big guy. Like if the big guy. What's that line in Game of Thrones, Jeff? Where they're the big guy. The giant guy crushes his head. Diego. What's his name's head? And who the bald guy, the eunuch is, he's like, always, the big guy always wins. That line. I was thinking about that when they were fighting. I was like, eventually, I was hoping he was going to take the turn and Tony was going to go nuts, and they fucking did it. And they just went in so tight, so you felt that. I think they justified the scene afterwards with him and Maria. I want to ask you guys this, because this may have been kind of my favorite part and the thing that I think may have actually pushed them into a bit of a problem corner. Just because they did such a good job with establishing it. Anita's character. Anita's always a wonderful character. Rita Moreno won for this in the 61 version. Everyone loves Maria. She has wonderful songs. We can talk about the America sequence for a fucking hour if you guys want. It was
America's
fucking
the best number in the movie.
It was
America's
perfect.
So
it was
good.
unbelievable. But
that was an update too, by the way.
That was an update. They did such a good job from the beginning, unlike the stage version, of making Anita oppose Bernardo's stance against the Jets, like actively saying, "Stop acting like a gangster. You're behaving like a gangster. Don't fight. I hate it when you do that. Don't do that." It was really earned. It was built up so that she was totally against it, and it gave her a very strong point of view. That she was it finally made sense that she was also hopeful in America that you don't have to behave like that. That's another way that there's room for you. Now, what happened though? They kind of wrote themselves into a corner, I feel like, because I Have a Love and A Boy Like That, this amazing scene, and the Rumble where she's in church saying, "I can't wait till he comes back." Because there's a very famous sequence in the 61 version in the stage production where there's a scene between Maria and Anita where Anita's like, "Oh, I'm going to have a night with your brother. That boy's so hot after a Rumble." It just says something like that. And it's like, what? It's never made sense. Now, they got rid of that completely and still pushed her in the direction of anti-Rumble, anti-fighting. What are you doing? Don't do that. She was mad at him at the dance for getting into it and stuff. So then when the I Have a Love or the Rumble came, they put her in church and she still had the same lyrics. When she was saying like, "I can't wait to see Bernardo tonight, but we're going to have, still sexy."
Anita's going to get her kicks tonight.
Anita's going to get her kicks. I don't know if that totally worked. And then the I Have a Love and A Boy Like That, the Boy Like That was amazing. The I Have a Love for her to understand. I'm afraid it kind of made me feel like I think Anita has learned more than anyone else, ahead of everyone else, that it's not worth it. Why would she encourage Maria to continue down this path, even if she's in love? So it didn't ultimately bother me, but I think they put themselves in a bit of a pickle. But then they came right out of it when she had her rape scene and her confrontation with Rita I mean, unbelievable what happened at Doc's drugstore. That scene.
Yeah, that was brutal.
What they gave her to do in the confrontation between those two women of different generations.
And also,
unbelievable.
Whatever the exchange between Rita Moreno was and her, with not only just the fact that it's two Anitas talking to each other, but she was essentially like, "Why are you letting them be here? Why are you doing that?" And just leaving it. And yeah, it was great.
Sorry, this is my last one, Dave, and I'll shut up and we can talk some filmmaking because it deserves it too. I think my favorite update, because you're watching Romeo and Juliet, you're watching West Side Story, and you're like, "God damn it, somebody tell these fucking kids it's not worth it." They finally gave Rita Moreno, Doc, the substitute Doc. She finally says, what a beautiful, simple line by Tony Kushner: "Life is worth more than love." And it's just, and Tony just didn't hear it. He couldn't hear it.
Yep.
Finally, the stakes were high enough for her to follow it up by saying she's dead, and for him to prove that he not only did he not hear her, he's willing to die for it. They gave him one more opportunity to justify his decision from the very beginning that he's not going to be able to live without it. Oh my God! So many scenes we could talk about it. I felt like I was falling off the edge of the cliff until I met you. Like
it's the one part I didn't like.
You didn't like that?
No, I liked everything except his reaction.
Oh, like literally his like
it was kind of it was kind of a little bit Phantom of the Opera-ish, but it wasn't a face like I've just been told my girlfriend died. It was more like Ben Platt emoting at a proctologist sort of thing. It was just seriously, it was like
I'm coming for you, Dave. I'm coming for you. Yeah,
we got it at the same time.
No, it really was. It was too much.
So that was too much. But you're talking just not a script.
No, it was strictly his emoting. In my opinion, Ansel was probably the weakest on ground. I'm sad to say, but he was still. Like,
and do you feel that way?
He got better as he went along, but he was still great.
Just to clarify, though, do you feel that way as a performer and actor, or do you feel like it's still a little bit of the Tony problem?
No, I felt that way as a performer as well.
Okay, all right.
Maybe they actually the tough A to Z here is
we didn't send anyone away, so we're still good, right?
Yeah,
just come with us.
Tony, it was an interesting A to Z that like their first official date, they get in an argument, and then he tells her she went to that he was in prison, and then she's like, "Great, let's elope." It's like okay, like that's still a tough
Strangely,
A to Z, but I still think they pulled it off.
Yeah, that one thing was that like
didn't bother me at all.
That dialogue,
that reaction. I feel like if I could have seen a little bit more of his face, it would have sold. And I don't know if
that was an interesting choice
him or if it was
They made a choice clearly. Like that was one of the few moments in that scene where he left the camera. Like I know he was about to explode and go upstairs, but like they didn't they didn't move with him. There were so much interesting crosses there. They held them in close up, and then that moment happens, and he finally escapes into the darkness of that basement. So they clearly chose to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they said, "Go big." You know, you got a wide frame.
There are definitely times when that works. Nick Cage gets away with it all the time, and it's great. Like he's made a career out of that, and sometimes it's entirely appropriate to like overact a scene. But that just when that happened, it kind of pulled me out a little bit, and that's the only time. Yeah. The only time in the whole film.
How good were the? Let's try to mesh a little bit of the filmmaking with this storytelling updates. I think they sat down at one point and they said, and I'm so glad they did. Steven Kushner, we should just call them that.
That's what they are now, yeah.
I feel like they all looked each other in the eye and they said, this needs to have real violence.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I could have used more violence in the Rumble. I mean, the stabbing was very real, but I could have used some more.
The violence you did see, though, was consequential. The sound design, the very first one.
The sound design
that paint can to the head, dude.
What a brilliant, because again, they're only fighting because they hate each other, but to storytelling and filmmaking, and we already kind of hinted this with Chekhov's gun here. So they did a brilliant take on Chekhov's gun where one person buys a gun, another person tries to get it, and then it ends up back in the first person who ends up giving it back to the other person who drops it so a different person picks it up but throws it to the other person who uses the gun. Fucking brilliant over the course of an hour. One single prop, the I Feel Pretty, my quick little update on Stephen Sondheim notoriously hates a lot of the show because he was trying to write for the method generation, so to speak, where he wanted people from the street to sound like they're from the street. And he didn't like, he very famously hates I Feel Pretty because it sounds like a girl from the street who's new to town who doesn't speak English all of a sudden is at a dinner party at Noel Coward's flat. But with musicals, which I think I understand.
God, I wish I was at that dinner party. Sorry, keep going.
That's what I'm saying. Well, and what Leonard Bernstein understood is this is idealistic. They're all dreaming. They're all daydreamers. And I don't think Sondheim really believed that. I don't think he really connected with it. So Tony Kushner took it 100%. He set I Feel Pretty at the department store that she's working at so that she's around the wealthy people. She understands what it's like to be them. And then they take one prop, which is this little with a little scarf, like a fancy scarf, and she sings about I Feel Pretty because she sees these people every day. But rather than sit there and be like, I want to win the lottery or whatever, I'm going to work really hard so that my kids can have a better life, which is the American dream, as I was saying before. And so a lot of it, Officer Krupke is this dreamlike thing that was just fucking brilliant at the police station.
Oh my God, the staging of that.
Brilliant. It was absolutely perfect and brilliant. It's Broadway at its best, but it was also cinema at its best. But back to what John was saying about the prop at the beginning. It's a paint can. We see the paint can and we're like, what's going on? With this paint can, one prop, not guns, not knives, not pipes. And this paint can led to the Rumble. And it's like, and it's so simple that it's like, why didn't anybody else think
Why
of it?
didn't
It's like,
anybody
you
else
really need
think? I
somebody-
know, like, because the opening.
They painted over a Puerto Rican flag. They painted over a Puerto Rican
So
flag, and then the
simple.
Puerto Ricans saw that, and
So
then they got in a
simple.
huge rumble. It makes total sense. What else would a fucking nail go into somebody's ear over? Just like Tuesday at 2:00? No, it's because they painted over the flag. Like,
If anyone's
fucking-
wondering why I'm
Sorry,
letting
getting
these
back to
guys talk so much, it's because next week we're doing a Marvel movie. So, yeah, no,
Dave, let's get in there, dude.
yeah,
What are you
I
feeling?
got the-
Or we can talk filmmaking.
Yeah, I got
because-
the feel with this, and I can't wait for some of. Like, I've been looking for stuff all day. None of the visual effects companies have anything on it yet. I've checked all their websites. There's nothing. So I guess they're waiting to release it, which is a shame because like release that stuff now, build the popularity. Because from what I heard, ticket sales weren't that good, which is a
Really
damn
bad,
shame.
really bad.
Because
Oh, no.
this
I'm pretty sure In the Heights outperformed this, and In the Heights came out on
yes,
HBO
it
Max
did.
on the same day.
Yeah,
And it still
it did.
outperformed this at the box office. And next week is
next week
a
is
huge week.
yeah,
So.
yeah, Spider-Man, which is like sold out for 40 fucking years. But I feel like back to the staging of this, because I've worked in musicals a lot, and I feel like they staged it and then went, all right, we're going to film that. It was a two-step process. It's like, let's stage it how we want to do, and then we go away and we figure out how to film exactly what we've staged. Because it really felt like I keep coming back to Les Mis, but Les Mis was very contained in what they did. Like they were like single location, that sort of thing. Like America went all over the fucking shop. They were everywhere. There were like 6 location changes, people climbing down ladders. Just that one scene with the gun was amazing. Like, granted, that was one location, but the camera
Like the
movement,
cool number.
yeah.
Dude, that made me think of. I want to call that out specifically because there are a couple of Steven Spielberg short films that you can watch from when he's a child making movies, and one of them is like a war movie, and he's messing with like tiny special effects. He's just using like M80s and things like that. But there's this one effect that he uses multiple times whenever somebody a bomb will go off. He just basically buried a piece of wood under sand. And his friend would, the actor would step on it, and it looks like dirt gets thrown in the air, like an explosion. And it just
Still
the
using
way
that
he
today.
used the standing, sipping the sand and getting them all over each other. This movie stunk. Like it smelled. It was visceral. It was sweaty. It was hot. It was, and he never missed an opportunity to add one of those kinds of elements. To set it not under a highway, to set it in the salt storage place, it heightened it so much.
Yeah.
It did so many things. So it's not just Spielbergian moments of like the establishing shot of the salt place from the overhead shot, the shadows walking in. Of course, that's fucking beautiful and awesome. And I'm glad he did that too. But it was the way he moved around in these incredible multiple locations that really just blew my mind. And the one-on-one intimate scenes were really excellent camera movement and blocking as well. But I would love to hear them talk about it, Dave, because I think you're probably right. I'm sure it was some kind of collaboration. I bet they didn't dictate from one side or the other completely.
I mean, I may buy a fucking Blu-ray player and the hard disk of this just so I can watch the special features.
I'm going to go see it again. Yeah. Did you want to see it?
Yeah.
How about the ending of, it's just these obvious cinematic choices that just, you're like, why has nobody done, why wasn't it done like that before?
Yeah.
At the end of the song,
I saw it today.
And Tony walks away. Hold on. And Tony like turns away. The camera just pans up and she's standing behind the laundry line.
Yeah.
She's standing on the balcony. Like, of course she is. Look at that shot.
Yeah.
Like, there's just cinematic.
Like I
it's so
saw
obvious, but
a
like,
thing
yes.
today as well that was side by side of shots from the movie. And there are some that are like eerily similar, but like, of course, the camera quality is increased, like the color is brighter and that sort of thing. But there are also some that are just so completely different in what they've staged. And I feel like, if anything, that's a reason to go and see this movie if you've already seen the original. I took my wife with me, who is a huge fan of the original. Both her and her dad are like religious about the original. And she walked out of that almost saying, I think this was better.
Yeah, I took my girlfriend and that's like her favorite movie. And she said the same. We were both like beside ourselves at the end of this. We just could not stop emoting and talking about how good it was. And we both said very quickly, I think that's better than the original.
Because
we're going to see this again.
After the Green Knight episode, I feel like I'm a little scared to take it to movies anymore because I got reamed on the street after that one. But
I went with my friends Eddie and Erin had she said that she needed a new mask because her mask got wet.
Yeah.
The same people that
Yeah, I
the
was
same
crying.
people that were like cheering sardonically at the Nicole Kidman
Same.
thing, some of them were howling, crying behind me.
People were crying.
Yeah,
the
it,
last-
like
yeah,
it was,
that
it
was
ran the
really-
emotional gamut. It had everything. Like it was uplifting. It had the like you were sad when it needed to be. It was violent when it needed to be, and I'm glad they did not tone that down. I feel like the only thing they toned down was the rape, and I felt like that worked.
Let's talk
That's
about
okay.
it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Let's talk
That's
about it.
okay.
How brilliant
and
that
some
was.
of the fighting, some of the fighting where they like had people like in the air and like grab them, like they would have beat the shit out of them, but they kind of were doing weird stuff with them, and they danced around a couple things, I would say, but in the same fashion they did the rape. But it's good to know that you can.
I think in those
do
fight
that.
scenes where those moments are happening, I know what you're talking about. It wasn't. I could have had it going a little bit further, but even when there were moments in the fights where it wasn't going far enough, somewhere else in the frame or in the next shot, somebody was really getting hit in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it kind of like that crowbar,
brilliant.
the pipe.
It was
and
a
stuff.
mix.
But anyway,
It was a mix of
all right, let's
violence
talk about the
and
rape scene.
choreography, which was
Yeah.
a great mix.
The rape
But
scene.
yes,
and the
There was,
staging of the final scene was really great too.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, let's talk about all of it. The rape scene. There were two, and unfortunately, it's true. I know there are no small parts and stuff. I hear you, Stanislavski, but there are two Jets girls. There are multiple Jets girls that are written into the original script that really are total throwaway parts. They're basically there to dance with Riff and the guys at the gym scene, and then they really don't have a lot to contribute story-wise for the rest of the script. What a wonderful update, Tony Kushner and Steven Spielberg, by having Graziella and I can't remember the other one's name in Doc's drugstore and Rita Moreno's drugstore, so that there would be, for one thing, that's a cringy scene. It's always been like, oh, I don't know if we should do that anymore. Whenever you produce this musical, so to have them present when Anita walks in, you already feel a little safer. You're like, thank God this isn't going to be exactly what it was. But then to have there's a little arc that they gave these women to have them try to stop the boys from getting all over Anita.
Even though they hate Anita.
Yes, even though they hate her. And at the beginning, let's stop. At the beginning of this, anybody's just walking out and she has that wonderful moment. Get out of here. Like
anybody's is not a she in this.
Excuse me. And they have a moment where they're in the door and they are the first one to tell her you should leave. And then she walks out. Anita walks in. The girls are there. They're saying, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. And then as the guys get rougher and rougher, the girls start desperately trying to stop it until the girls get thrown out of this fucking hall. And they are beating on the door, trying to save the girl. The girls are trying to save the girl. They have gone way past the race issues, and these women are just trying to stop these angry fucking assholes. And it heightened the scene so much. And then, again, to top it off, not to have a man come in, Doc, and save the day, but to have this old woman, Rita Moreno, come in. And I knew all of you. I've seen all of you grow up, and you grew up into rapists.
that
You should be ashamed of yourselves. Like,
beautiful.
Jesus Christ, that was so good.
Yeah.
Now, right after that, they did try to justify it. Do you remember when they walked down and Tony's like, you can't hear anything down here? Who was that? The cops?
Yeah. That was a fun line. You can't hear anything down here. And it's like, all right, Tony. That was a Spielberg line. Spielberg was like, Tony, I need this line. And he's like, it's going to cost
Guys,
me
nobody had a bad feeling
It's going to
about
cost me my Oscar.
Nobody had a bad feeling about this in this whole movie. Did you
No,
catch
it was
that?
so great.
I thought there would be got a bad feeling about it. Nobody had a bad feeling about it.
Yeah, nobody had a bad feeling.
I tell you what, how good would it?
Also,
I kind of
Tony's-
secretly wish though, like, because I had a couple of favorites in this, like. Ariana DeBose was one of my favorites. I loved
Anita, yeah.
How
Yeah, sure.
great would it
So
be to have both Anitas win an Oscar for this? Like, I mean, I hate the Oscars, but like just to, I just like the
Yes.
book.
No,
I like the
they're throwing-
bookend of that,
Yeah.
and I feel
They're throwing Ariana into supporting.
ah.
So it's yeah. She
Where's
is
the
supporting
category
in this,
fraud
so
button?
Yeah. No.
No, I mean, I think
Actually,
she's.
it's right here.
I think she's
And the
got a
answer
real
is no.
chance.
Anita is definitely a supporting character.
And I think she's going to win, though. I mean, or I think she's going to have a serious chance to win, which would be really fucking cool.
But she,
If people
but
see
wait,
this fucking
Rita-
movie,
Rita
then
won,
yeah.
Let's go all the way.
She won supporting actress too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Bernardo won too for the original. You know what I mean?
He was
It's like
he was fucking good.
this
yeah.
Bernardo was amazing. And he almost quit acting during the pandemic. I was
Dude,
just
I
reading
could not
about
take
that.
my eyes off him anytime he was on screen.
I mean, he was really. That's I was talking about Tony and Maria being like the hardest thing because that whole storyline. The real hardest part of West Side Story is You're all rooting for the Jets and the Sharks. We love Bernardo and Nita, and then Riff, and maybe even Action if you count some of this stuff. That's almost better. And then it's like Tony and the Love Story comes in, and we love the songs. But when it comes to the show, you're like, okay, man, fucking yeah, let's go. Let's see. Bernardo's awesome here. What's he gonna like? You can't help but just fall in love. And of course, in the musical version of West Side Story, the guys are not in America, which is pure idyllic. It's pure. They're just dreaming. So I don't understand why Sondheim, who wrote the fucking screenplay, who wrote the lyrics to this, I don't know why he hates on his lyrics so much for this, because it's too idealistic. It's too dream oriented and not realistic. But look at the song America, which is brilliant. The entire musical West Side Story is sort of based on the concept of America, but set in his present times, which I believe that they saw in the Heights before they did the America updates in this. But anyway, they see you put Bernardo into this with Anita, and they're arguing about what's better, Puerto Rico, as opposed to some nobody Sharks girl. Nobody, I don't know her name. I think it is actually Rosalie, to be honest with you. Is that her name? Do you know, John?
Not positive.
Who sings? It's like Anita and Rosalie are arguing about it, and it's like, we don't even know who that other person is, and then the girls are dancing. But to put the guys in, to put the town in, because the Robert Wise version, there's no extras. There's no town. So to show the town, and it's like, wait a second, they have pride. They do care about this country. Like Anita actually almost represented the people who like, shot, yes, we have Puerto Rican flags and we speak Spanish, but we do love being here. As soon as that shot pulled out
and I saw people in windows everywhere, I was like, oh, this is going to be like big.
Yeah, you knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And it was basically bright. He worked the original version was so dark the whole time. It was in the daylight. It's in the sun.
He worked his way from the west side to 72nd in Columbus, and like, I knew he was going to do it. I was like, God damn it, he's going to go all the way there, isn't he? He's going to go all the way there and have like fucking 300 people dancing in the middle of an intersection.
Well, the funny thing is, I never realized that the beginning of In the Heights is the beat, the homage.
I was like, help myself. Yeah. I heard that. I was like, but watch it. I was like, fuck, damn it. Yeah. No, that's it. That's exactly what it was.
That gave me a buzz. I like that.
How about it's a sound thing, but it's also a staging thing. The impact orally and like emotionally that the gunshots themselves had at the end. 2 gunshots. I'm glad there was a second one too. Chino made another decision to finish it. But how loud it was. I mean, Steven is, no stranger to really excellent gun violence and the emotional impact, the consequence that those things should have. It hurt. Like it got me. That's when everyone really broke in my theater, when they heard those gunshots, especially the second one, and felt him.
Also, it was a little bit of a play as well, because the first one goes through the shoulder, and everyone the whole thing was like, well, maybe they'll change it this time. Like maybe there'll be a slightly happier ending. And the first one went through the shoulder, and everyone's like, no, we're good. He can survive that. And then, the second shot, it's all over. Yeah.
They rushed it. But the way he aimed was really haunting for some reason. Because I feel like most Chinos, John, I think you did a really good job with this, because they had you enter and they had you really take note. I remember Rob having to rehearse at that. No, really. But I feel like it's an easy choice for a Chino that doesn't want to do it, that just like makes it seem really sporadic. Makes it seem like, oh, boom, Tony, oh, fuck, what did I do? But this was the way he aimed, and it was really haunted, to the point where when he gets, I mean, we're past spoilers here, but he gets arrested, sort of, in the background.
Definitely gets arrested.
And it's like, he was the smart, brilliant guy who is now going to be another Puerto Rican in jail, to use that lingo of the time, it was really sad, but also the way he aimed that, I mean, it was really haunting. They rushed the ending a little bit. They kind of rushed it. But I feel
the same way. I know that's kind of sad to say. I do think there was something maybe rushed about it. I don't think I was upset by it, but
no.
I don't know if it lived up to I don't know if it was as amazing as so much that was leading up to it. However,
I think the camera helped sell that
final
moment.
The camera helped enormously.
Yeah.
That floating camera to get to the last image.
Yeah.
I am so glad he did not crane all the way up above West Side and like give us a God's view.
No.
He gave you end in a fire escape, which is exactly how the next generation saw that violence out their fucking window.
Yeah.
Like this story continues. You are trapped in this West Side with them. I just thought it was so powerful. I was so emotional when he finally got to that last shot. I was like, don't go any higher. Don't go any higher. And it just finally just lands.
And you know what?
Cops come up. Oh.
Did you guys stay for the after credits scene?
Yeah.
No, I'm just fucking with
go
you.
fuck yourself. Get the fuck
No,
out of
but
here.
did you
Get
see
out of here. Get out of here.
but you saw Steven Spielberg is
I
always
stayed for a while though.
Steven Spielberg is always so proud of this. There was a little postscript at the very end of the credits. It said over 15,000 people worked on this film.
Yeah.
You know, he's always very proud of how many people he employs. Basically
That's
starts
cool.
a company every time he makes something.
And they did.
Yeah. So
and
don't
we talked about
don't
In the Heights
illegally
where-
download it, you fucks. Yeah.
We talked about in the Heights where Litton made sure they filmed 100% of the movie in Washington Heights so that the money would get poured back into the community. Steve did film this in New York. It was all New York.
It was
actors,
New York and Jersey,
actors,
actually.
which is cool.
Some of the interiors were
It was
Jersey.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little
But the
surprised.
actors and then
And
all
they
of
I
the-
shot
didn't
it on
see
film.
more people that we knew.
As well.
They shot this on
shot it on
film.
Yeah.
shit.
This was Kodak Vision 3.
Wait, but I just want to say really quick, there was only
Do they use anamorphic
shit.
lenses?
That I did.
I'm
I
looking
don't
it
know.
up. Keep going,
Yeah.
Jeff. I don't think they did. I didn't
No,
see
I
the
think it was.
ovals. Jeff,
I
keep
think it
going.
was spherical.
say-
Whenever they had streaks,
Yeah,
they had
that's it.
a streak filter.
Yeah.
I've said in the past that Spielberg kind of is a grandpa sometimes like talking to like his grandkids in his movies recently. That's just the way that I've interpreted some of his films. But there was only one time where I even saw him in this film. There was only one time. The whole film really could have been anybody. Obviously, you knew somebody who was a master, but there's only one time I saw him, and I'm pretty sure it was the one scene that was just sort of an obvious scene, which is I'm pretty sure it was when they said, "There's a rumble here tonight. We don't know where it is, but we want the whole thing." And he just opened on a wide and just started his like very slow punch in that was very even. And I was like, there he is. There's Steve.
In the bathroom?
The classic Steven Spielberg punch it. No. I think it was when Corey Stoll was telling everybody, "There's a rumble tonight." And he's like, "I want everybody on this. I want you in the docks and you in the there." And he just started on a wide and he just like slowly, he does like the famous punch-ins. The one-ers and the punch-ins are like the Spielberg's things that he loves. And the punch-in, when he started moving that camera, I was like, "There's Steve. There he is." But otherwise, the scenes in the apartment with all of the colors and stuff, I was like, I don't think I've ever seen Steve do something like that, where he's shooting at a light source with colors
A whole lot
like
of that.
kind of draped.
A whole lot of the light
And the-
sources
and the cloisters.
in the background, right? Just
A lot of the stuff
shining
at the
right up in
cloisters,
the
yeah.
cloisters.
The cloister scene, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's cool.
That
Yeah,
was
I
some
mean,
good.
yeah, I agree
some
with
good
you,
shots
Jeff.
there.
I think it did him really. It's not that he writes scripts, but there was something about like this was already given material. So, you know, hire one of the best writers in the world to help you enhance it. But he didn't take so much free reign with it that he turned it into a Spielberg like script. You know, it was like
Yeah.
it felt it never felt and I don't want this to sound like negative, but I don't think it ever felt sentimental, which is why I think this script can slip if you start to feel sentimental about it, especially when it takes on this like status of almost like iconoclastic material and in the American music theater canon. There's almost like a given amount of nostalgia in it, even when you see a good stage production, and they really steer clear to that. And I just all these elements supported how they were able to achieve it, I think. But man, I just can't. I can't say.
I mean, I mentioned the start, the like the whistles and stuff, but one of the things that really got me was like when they first panned over the rubble and it panned up, and it was hilariously, my first thought was, oh, they borrowed the set from 1917, but then it kept going, and yeah,
That's what I thought the same thing. Oh my god, I thought it was the burning city, right?
but then it goes up and
thought the
over past
same
the
thing.
like the Lincoln Center sign, and then there's a wrecking ball, and I'm like, where's he going with this? Then it comes down to the ground, and then the fucking ground opens up. And a face comes right at the camera. I'm like, what the fuck? And the camera pulls back out, and you realize they're coming out of something. They're stealing shit from a basement. And it was the most amazing way of saying, expect the unexpected here. Like this, you're not going to get what you normally get. It was just the way it was staged. It like straight up, it was a shock, and it knocked me out of the frame of mind I had going in. And I feel like that was a little bit of genius there, because it's like a little bit of a shock, puts you off your game a little bit, and you're more willing to accept and ease into the film, and oh god, it was good.
When you nail something simple, like instead of starting in the future and then going back in time, or doing like the end of adaptation where you're, you know what I mean, you do it in reverse, where like the movie ends and then you fast forward and do a time lapse or whatever. The way they open on what Lincoln Center is going to look like, but it's like a, you know, the blow up that you see outside of construction sites, and then they pull back, so you see it, like and fucking, you're like, oh, that looks like Lincoln Center, and then you pull back, and it's like, it.
Yeah.
No, this is you just fall out. Yeah, exactly. I thought
I really did think
really,
that
really
as well.
Funny. we're gosh. Obviously, we like the movie. I think we should wrap it up for the sake of our listeners, even though we could talk for another
fair.
hour about all the things
Tune
that
in
we
for
liked.
episode 2.
The last thing I want to say, since we didn't talk about anybody, I want to shout out Riff, who's played by Mike Feist,
One of my
who was in the
favorites.
original cast of
One of my
Newsies.
favorites.
And what a weird Riff, because his voice was really high. He's pretty skinny, so like maybe if you just took a look at him, you wouldn't think it.
Like,
but holy shit, he was
also,
good.
his,
We already praised
like,
Bernardo
he
Anita Maria,
could-
so
any choreography you threw at that guy, he was just like done.
yeah. And they did chop down a lot of the other roles, like Arab, Baby John. You knew who he was, but like they didn't exactly like overkill the supporting characters. But I'm gonna say I was at a wedding this past year, and if only I knew that the West Side Story movie was supposed to come out last year, so I would have known this ahead of time. But Mike Feist was in the wedding party, and all of a sudden, you know when you dance before anybody's even eaten and people are up there and they're kind of awkward because they're not drunk enough yet and like they don't know when the dinner's going to be and they're still like meeting and saying hi to people. All of a sudden, fucking Mike Feist is in like a dance off with the band where we had this like the singers of the band and he's doing like Latin dance, like tango and cha-cha and stuff. And he's doing and all of a sudden a circle forms. There was a circle at the wedding before we even ate our salads. Like fucking crazy. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, oh yeah, that's Mike Feist. He was a Tony nominee for Dear Evan Hansen. And he's dancing his ass off against people who are singing Spanish music. So I assume they grew up dancing that, and he's dancing against them. So he brings the groom out, and the two of them have a dance off with the two singers. And the wedding hasn't like I feel like they just said I do.
They haven't introduced the bride and groom yet. He's out there dancing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, they actually did they? I don't even remember the order, but it was like really early in the wedding, and I was like, Mike Feist. Like I knew he was in Newsies, but I only knew him from Dear Evan Hansen.
He was one of my favorites in this, actually.
And now here he is as Riff. Like holy shit. So that's my Mike Feist anecdote. All right.
That's definitely see this. Definitely see this, and if you can.
It's gonna come out on streaming, but no
Dolby
time
Cinema.
soon. Go see it in the movie theater.
Go and see it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. Sorry, go ahead.
and see it this weekend while everyone else is watching Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was about to say, should we just go see it again and then talk about it again on Monday because we're not going to be able to see Spider-Man?
Wait,
I have a ticket.
Because if you want them to see it in Dolby Cinema, they have 3 days to see it.
I'm telling you, I think
I'll have to check that after this.
I also had this thought when I was leaving the theater. It's going to be kind of weird it's going to be nostalgic seeing Steven on top again at the Academy Awards. Like we grew up with him, he was a fixture, he was always there. And he was often in contention for awards, not just a presence who got invited and attended every year. It's going to be cool seeing him. You guys, he almost made this 40 years to after Jaws. This is like a 40-year career culminating to this film. And I just think it's so well done. I think he's going to win Best Picture.
All is forgiven for 1941.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and give you a round of what you've been watching. We had 2 weeks this time, because we took last week off for a number of reasons, mostly because John was finishing grad school and I'm in grad school, so there you go.
We
did. Last week
we
off?
did.
I don't remember the timeline.
Yeah.
All right, so what you guys been watching, Dave?
I watched 2 things. I'll start with the bad one. The new Cinderella.
Billy Porter?
And no, it's just
all right.
Moving
on.
No, it just tries so hard. It's cringy. And it's
how new is this one? The one several years ago?
No, this year.
No, it's from this year. It's from 2021.
It just doesn't work. What they're trying to do doesn't work. And I totally signed the James Corden petition to stop him making musicals after this.
James, I'm going to go ahead and say that James Corden was not the worst.
He was not the worst thing about that movie, that's for sure.
Whatever.
And I also caught the film Censor, which is it's a horror film. It's set back in London when they went through in the UK when they went through the horror films basically turning the populace violent. So we're going to develop this censorship thing, and it's a very, very psychological thriller. It's quite good. It's on a lot of people's top 10 list of the year. That's how I found it. And I gave it a watch and scared the piss out of me in the first 30 minutes. It was great. Shit. But it's also she is actually a censor who gets all these horror movies and has to sit through them and watch them. There's this whole other subplot about something that happened to her when she was young. That's cool. All I'll say. And one of the films she gets starts to have striking similarities to what happened to her. and take
Where
it
is
from
this?
there.
All right, we love
This
that.
was it was filmed in the UK.
No. What streaming service is it?
This is on Hulu, I think, at the moment.
Cool.
We don't care about national origin, Dave. We want to know how to sing.
Yeah, sorry everyone, it's in English. Yeah.
It's English.
Also, wait. Can I just say really quick? Fuck anybody who's hating on the Spanish
God,
scenes.
yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Is that a thing? Who's hating on that?
I saw.
Yeah, we would
my old
be.
voice
Hold on, wait,
teacher-
really quickly. We would be remiss if we didn't mention that there's a lot of Spanish dialogue that is not subtitled. I thought
And
there
it
was a
was done
wonderful blend.
perfectly.
Yeah, I know we're
Like,
three
the-
white guys, but I really
Well, the thing
appreciated
is,
that I didn't follow
don't,
every word.
I don't speak much Spanish, like
And-
almost any Spanish. I understand a little bit of it, but like enough of it was contextual. I didn't feel like I was missing out. And to be honest, what's the percentage of Spanish-speaking people in the US? Maybe learn a bit.
What is that? What people are upset about that they're not subtitled?
There were articles about it. They said it's like there was an article that was going. I mean, first of all, have you ever been on Twitter? But there was an article that was shared by somebody in my life that I knew was a cynic, so I don't talk to them very much anymore. And then one of I love it that the first comment was, "So I guess you haven't seen the movie." I was really happy that was the first comment. So it was basically like, is Spielberg trying at a power play? Like, oh, is he proving that he's so woke because he cast an all?
Oh no, the magical woke word.
Speaking,
Fuck off.
Damned if you do,
Yeah, exactly.
damned if you
That's-
don't, kind of thing. Jesus.
Yeah, they were like, it's power. It's like, don't you want people
Send
to follow?
that
And it's like,
motherfucker a thesaurus so they can find other words for woke.
well, and I love back to Tony. I love the thing where Tony Kushner, Tony the character is practicing the Spanish, and we know because he just practiced. He's trying to say, "I want to be with you forever," and Maria laughs. And he goes, "What? It means," and she goes, "I know what it means." And it's funny because as an audience, I was kind of thinking like, did he fuck it up? Did he say the wrong thing? So I actually like kind of needed Maria to like give me the clarification that she knows what it means. She was laughing because it's absurd for somebody to say that on the first day, which is why Romeo and Juliet, even though we love the love story, Romeo's fucked up. Juliet's the hero of that story. Okay, sorry, John. What
I'll
did you
back
say?
him on that.
Yeah, I'm glad we said that though.
Yeah.
I'm in holiday mode. I've been watching a bunch of like school screenings, so I haven't watched too many movies. But we watched Jingle All the Way. We watched The Holiday, and I got to go see. It's a really good animated movie from Sony, The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Oh God, yes, I've seen that. It's so good.
It's the new Sony animated one by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller produced it. They're the same
Yeah.
guys who did
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, and it's directed by
It has
Michael
that look
Rianda and
too,
Jeff
which is
Rowe.
great.
They were all at school and they talked about it. It was really cool.
Oh, wait.
And it was very enjoyable. It was fun. I haven't seen an animated movie that looked like that in a long time. And it's not the Spider-Verse. It's not a
No.
copycat at all. It's a different style of animation. But it's an animated movie. It was really funny and touched the heart. It's on Netflix, I think. I recommend watching it. It's good.
I have one more.
What?
I watched the animated
ahead.
kids movie Back to the Outback.
Back to the Outback.
Yeah, it's
Missing
a
Home
it's a
Dave?
whole
Really made for
group
you.
of ferocious Australian creatures. Like there's a funnel web spider and a snake, and they find out that they're being like set up as monsters, so they decide to escape and go home. And there's
Aw.
and it's absolutely built for kids. I have a little bit of issue with them making the funnel web spider so cute because some kids might try to catch it, and that's not going to end well. But it is just a feel. If you've got kids, this thing is fucking awesome. Like it's so cute and cheesy and fun and Australian.
So Australian. Yeah.
So Australian. Like you'll pick up some Australian
Oh my
slang.
god.
I think there's even a
definitely
budgie
just
smuggler's
needed-
line in there,
I
but
want-
yeah.
Aw.
I asked my friends. I had a bad day at a job that I don't like doing, so I asked my friends at the Matt and Mark movie show for movie recommendations, and I didn't take any of the recommendations, but I will soon. But
Matt and Mark, here you go.
I was just I was
exactly.
coming for him too.
No, they gave great suggestions, and I can't wait to see. Titan is the one that they said that I jumped out the most. That I can't wait to see.
yeah.
They did not say Annette as part of their
'Cause
favorite
it
movie
wasn't.
list. Dave and John, you fuckers. Oh, I thought. Well, anyway, they like the Sparks Brother documentary though. Okay, anyway, I saw Pig. That was one that I saw. And
Oh yeah.
did I
Nick
see any
Cage.
other
How was it?
with Nick Cage? It's on. That's on Hulu.
Yeah.
I liked it. I really did like it. I don't know if it's in my top 5, but really, really happy for Nick Cage. I thought it was a good movie. I like Alex Wolff too. And then I kind of caught up with some TV because I was sort of like doing the dishes and doing things here and there. So I'm catching up on The Boys
Yep.
for a reason. And Loki and Hawkeye. I'm trying to like stay Marvel relevant. I'm
Yeah.
trying really
Hawkeye,
hard.
I'm loving Hawkeye.
Oh shit!
actually,
There's
I
a
like
series
Hawkeye.
about it.
Oh yeah, dude.
I'm getting fatigued.
It's my favorite. It's a Christmas
I'm getting
film.
a little
It's a Christmas
fatigued,
series.
but it's cool.
They're
It's a
4
Christmas
episodes
series,
in,
which I thought
5
was
soon.
cool.
It's worth it.
There was a bunch of
I
traffic
think
the other
it's-
day because of a fucking premiere a couple weeks ago about Hawkeye. I didn't know what the hell. I was like, he had a movie come out. I didn't know what
it's
the
a
hell they were
series.
talking about.
They're introducing Kate Bishop.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. It's a
Yeah.
Christmas themed.
It absolutely is a
series.
Christmas theme.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's so
dude,
good.
I can't believe you missed the trailers.
Girl
They're
from True
fucking
Grit,
funny.
grow up, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so that's it. Let's wrap it up there. We're at an hour. Let's close it. People, go see this movie. This West Side's
it's-
really, really
it's-
great.
Go
Forget
see
about
it
awards.
again.
It's
I'm
fucking
glad
Fuck
we-
it, yeah,
magical.
see it twice.
Like magical.
This is going to be one of those movies that I think it's so spectacle. It's so Steven Spielberg. We could probably say that about a lot of his movies, but I think this one is going to stand the test of time as a really excellent remake.
This
yada,
might,
yada.
Oh,
this
great.
might
I think
be
you're going to
fucking
want to be
opus.
able
Like
to
this-
say. I think you're going to want to be able to say you saw it on the big screen.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies. You should go check it out.
I saw it in Lincoln Center where the movie was set. They actually said the words Lincoln Square, and I was
At
like,
the
I'm
IMAX?
at the Lincoln Square Cinemas.
The Dolby.
Not the IMAX. It was the Dolby
Fuck,
Cinema.
I'm
Yeah.
so jealous, you guys. Damn it, that sounds amazing.
They're like, oh, we're going to be all over Lincoln Square. And I was like, I'm in Lincoln Square right now. All right, people, thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll see you next week for Spider-Man. Please check us out on the feed, like and subscribe on the socials to hear more. And we'll see you soon, film fans.